Finding self behind the hidden mystery, under a mask of humanity's identity. Based on lack of wisdom and pursuit of greed, my life has been denied the implant of the now consciousness seed. I am much more than I've been told, so let's allow this factual story to unfold. Myself is a prize of amazing grace, in search of lost memory that's still being traced. I am being filled with love and light, playing a major role in this flight of life, finding self buried beneath dark debris, not allowing the connection with the higher me. I am in the strength, I am in the power, rising in this sacred hour. There is a gap in discovery of the pathway to alignment. This is powerful movement for human assignments, finding self, a mission for magnetic awareness. There is a force connected to willfully carry us. All that's within me is all that I need to gain a pure sense of self to succeed, to draw the energies for phenomenal change. Prepare for the coming of the divine Big Bang. I am being filled with love and light, playing a major role in this flight of life, finding self buried beneath dark debris, not allowing the connection with the higher me. I am in the strength, I am in the power, rising in this sacred hour. I am in harmonizing with consciousness, vibrating memory of eternal oneness. I find self, I will find you. To find yourself is to create the sensation and exposure of truth. We shall pass it on and on and on. Pass it on and on and on. Finding self. Pass it on and on and on. Pass it on and on. Finding love. Pass it on and on. Finding truth. Pass it on and on. Pass it on and on and on.
Good morning, and good morning again. Yes, sirree. I welcome you, no matter the time of the day or where you are or where your consciousness is in this moment. I welcome you to Unity of Chicago South, our Beyond Walls spiritual community that streams live from Chicago each Sunday and even beyond. Today, we continue with our journey through the resurrection reset. Resurrection reset. Well, what the heck you do is the resurrection reset. The resurrection reset is a reset of consciousness. A reset of consciousness. And we have been moving in this reset as we journey toward not just Easter, but toward a deeper understanding of how transformation actually happens in our lives. We began with awareness. Then we moved into release. And last week we explored reframing. And today we arrive at something very, extremely important. Alignment. Now let's just take a moment before we enter into this phase of this reset and center ourselves. Center ourselves by taking in a deep breath, yes, and then releasing it. Center ourselves as we embrace the truth that we practice in this beyond walls spiritual space and in our lives. The truth that there is an infinite source available to each and every one of us. It is there for us as we seek it, no matter our race, our gender, or even the religion we practice. You can believe what you may, but you should know that the source of the universe is also the source of each of us. Therefore, the principle supporting the stars is the principle supporting and available to each of us. Now, as I declare this statement in the first person, know that I am declaring it for all. I am open and receptive to this divine living principle. Father, Mother, God, I am grateful. And this is my declaration. This is my truth. And as I accept it, so it becomes in my life, world, and affairs. And all is well and well indeed. Awareness. Awareness helps us to see. Release. Release helps us to let go. And then we learn reframing helps us see differently. But that is not enough. There is something else that must happen before life begins to truly change, before life begins to truly change. That something is our focus of today. And that is alignment. You see, many people are not struggling because they lack desire. Desire is something that they have. Desire is something that's moving them. They're struggling because they're not aligned. And so if they're not aligned, then that means there's a misalignment in their lives. And misalignment can be in disguise, so to speak. You see, misalignment can make you think you're just off. It could look like, you want peace, but you keep thinking thoughts of worry. You want growth, but you hold on to fear. You want change, but continue the same familiar patterns. Now understand this, there's nothing wrong with desire. There's nothing at all wrong with having the desire. There's nothing wrong with the people that are working with that desire to make a difference in their life. The issue is that thought, intention, and action are not moving in unison together. And when life is out of alignment, it makes life feel like a real effort. It feels like pushing. It feels like there is a tremendous amount of resistance facing us as we say we want to change. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power. Alignment begins in that space. Not in the event, but in the response. Not in what just happened, but how do I respond to it? Alignment is not something we force out. It is something we begin to take notice of and then make the choice on our response. Now, sometimes instead of telling ourselves what is true, it can be more powerful to ask a question that opens us up to a new way of seeing. Howard Thurman puts it this way, says that there is something in every one of us that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in ourselves. That waits and listens for the sound of the genuine, the Christ, the source, the power that is within us. What he's pointing out here is that there is something within you, within me, that already knows when we are aligned and when we are not. And instead of trying to force alignment, we can begin by asking that question that invites alignment to come forth. We can use this week's affirmation for that. Now, if you've been traveling with us through this resurrection reset, you'll remember that the affirmation is not a statement that we try to use to convince ourselves that it is true. That is an affirmation, and it has its place, and it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. No, the affirmation is instead a question that invites that something that Howard Thurman talks about, that something that's in each of us that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in ourselves to answer. So let's move into an affirmation that we can use, affirmation that we can use and that we can take forward this week, this moment. Why is my life beginning to come into alignment with deeper truth? That's the question that we're posing for our genuine self to respond to. Easier to come in alignment with a deeper truth. Let's just pause there for a moment and let that question just resonate. Why is it happening? Why is it becoming easier? Understand that alignment does not begin when everything changes. So often we say, boy, if I could just change this, my life, oh my goodness. If I could just change this, if I just had more of this. So many of us are guilty of that. I raise my hand. But instead, alignment begins when something within us, something within us says, yes, I am ready for the change. Yes, I am ready for the growth. Yes, I am ready for the prosperity. And that happens when our thoughts and our awareness and our actions begin to move in unison in the same direction, begin to move in unison in the same direction. Let's just pause, think about that. What might have been going wrong in the desire for me to change, and the desire for me to grow, and the desire for whatever, fill in the blank. Were my thoughts, were my intentions, and were my actions acting in unison toward that desire fulfillment? It's the thought that begins the process. In New Thought, in our practice, we can find some of the founders of the major practices within the New Thought movement, Science of Mind being one, and that's Ernest Holmes. And what he said was, change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. So the things that we need to do to change our thinking are the things that are going to help us change our lives. It could be anything. I'm going to just slow my life down. I'm going to start my day off a little slower. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to have that cup of tea and ponder over it instead of a cup of coffee, whatever it may be. It will help us change our thinking. We begin to change our lives when we start changing our thinking. And Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, taught that thought is formative. Thought is formative. Thought is formative. This means life does not begin with the actions that I take. It begins with the consciousness. With the consciousness I have before I take the action. Why did things always work out wrong for me? I do everything right. Well, I grew up with that. Well, what was going on in the thinking of that environment, of myself, of anyone involved? What was going on with the thinking, the real thinking? What they thought, not with the words, I want to be great, but I'm inferior. You see, the inferior seed is in consciousness. The I want to be great are just words. And I can take actions based on words, but if the consciousness is not in alignment, there's going to be issues. Because alignment happens when what I think, what you think, what I believe, what you believe, and how you act and how I act begin to agree with each other. They believe and act are moving in unity together. They become a trio of love, wanting to be with each other, the thinking, yes, the believing, yes, and then the action. Understand that alignment is not something that you run after out here. Alignment is something that you recognize and then choose moment by moment. What is that? We were told earlier with Viktor Frankl that there's a pause between the action and the response. And this is where we perfect our alignment. This is where we adjust our alignment. This is where it makes a difference. I used to scream at my children when they did thus. But now, in that pause, I don't scream anymore because I really want peace. And so I present peace because I want peace. Because I want peace, I present peace. Now we're in alignment. My words, I want peace. My thinking, I want peace. And now my reaction, because I'm pausing in that space, my response is of peace. But it's done moment by moment. And some of us, that's so hard. One right now, right here, right now. And that's understandable. That's understandable. Some of us have lived with whatever it is for so long that we just want to change. Please change, change, change. But because we wanted to change like this doesn't mean that the process says yes to it. The process is, this is the process. Get with the process. The process is when there's a space between the action and your response, and that's the space that you have to do the work with. If I could only be perfectly aligned with my thinking and my action, it's not. Understand it is a practice. That means that I will continue to do it. I don't get to a point that, oh, it's great. I'm here. Perfection, I reached it. Nirvana, I'm here. It is a practice. So when there is an action, I now know that my response makes all the difference in the world. And that response needs to be in alignment with me, not that. Oh, they made me so angry. But I say, I want peace. Am I going to allow that action to misalign me, to take me out of alignment, to prevent me from being in alignment? Am I going to do that? Because someone over here says, whoa, they said that to you, you're going to respond, right? Yeah, I'm going to respond, but I'm going to respond from my thinking. That's where I'm at. And that takes work. You see, when we don't do that, when the person says you're going to let them get away with that, what's happening then is that I'm thinking one thing but living another. And when we notice that is happening, when I'm thinking one thing but living another, we need to choose again. And then we need to choose again every time we notice that I am living different than I'm thinking. That is the work. That's the work. To recognize that I'm not in alignment with what I say I want. And sometimes we might have to say, I guess I really don't want that. I'm just talking out my side of my neck. We're talking about how can we use this concept of alignment, how can we use it to change our lives, to continue to press forward toward the reset, the resurrection reset. I'm going to give you 3 keys for practical alignment. I'm going to give you 3 keys that we all can use, that I can use, that you can use, no matter where you are in your life at this point. You can use these 3 things to help you move into alignment with what you say you want. First, when it happens, pause. They just did this to me. Take a breath. Number 2, what is the thought that's guiding you in this moment? I want to retaliate. I want to get back. I want to let them know. I have to let them know because the people around me are looking and they'll think I'm not strong. So what's the thought that's guiding that moment? Or is the thought, I'm about peace and I want peace. So whatever my response is needs to be aligned with peace. It needs to be in line with peace. That's my 3rd thing. I now choose. So I pause. I check out. What am I thinking right now? What's going on in my mind right now? This stuff out here. What's going on in my mind right now? What is it that I say I want? Now I need to choose the response that's aligned with what I'm aware that I want. I need to choose the response for my peace. Wow. Can you see how there's a challenge with such a thing? Can you see how it's more than just words? It's an effort. It's more than just, I'm going to say this to you today. It's more than just prayer. Because after I pray, I must do. It's more than just meditation, because after the meditation, I must do. So once I become aware, number one, once I become aware, then I have to start taking action. So the first thing is the first week, I need to be aware, and I need to be willing to do what's necessary once I am aware. And these actions, these steps, this is how transformation becomes real. This is the work. Become aware. What am I thinking at this moment? What do I really, really want in my life? And that's my response. I want my response to come from what I really want in my life. So let's take a real life situation. Sometimes there's a response that I want to give to a situation, but that response is not in line with what I say I want. So what do? I can stand there and try to think of the right response that's going to be beautiful. Or I can say, this is overpowering me right now. I need to walk away. Sometimes the response is, I'm going to walk away. Because it's more important for me to reach my desire than it is for me to engage with this situation. Because I'm beginning to understand, I'm coming into an understanding that the situation does not dictate my reaction. My reaction dictates my reaching or not reaching the desire that I say I want. This is the work. A friend of mine says, let's not get it crooked. Let's get it right. This is the work. Pray on it. You still have to do the work. Meditate on it. You still have to do the work. Go to class on it. You still have to do the work. Read about it. You still have to do the work. Whatever it is, you still have to do the work. And if we understand that, when we grasp that I still have to do the work, it changes everything. It even changes the idea that there is this entity out here that's responsible for the stuff in my life, no matter what you call it. I have to do the work. I have to do the work. Understand that when this alignment begins to happen, life changes, but it doesn't change with loud bangs and cymbals. It changes very quietly. That leads us into our next week's lesson, our next week's talk. We talk about renewal. I need to become aware. Yeah. I need to let some stuff go that no longer serves me. Yeah. I need to reframe what I'm seeing. Yeah. Well, how do I do that? This person is coming at me. That means they don't like me. It means this. I don't care. What? I don't care. Why don't I care? Because I have a desire, and this is not in line with my desire, so I don't have a lot of energy I'm going to give that. I'm going to find a good response. I'm going to walk away. I don't care what you people are saying about what I am, who I am. That's not the point. I have a desire that I choose to reach. I have a goal, and it's important that I'm in line with that thinking so I can be aligned with the desire. Alignment is where life stops feeling forced and it becomes natural. A natural flow. Because that power within you is now moving you toward that desire, and you're no longer inhibiting it from getting there. Yes, I know. I never wanted to inhibit my prosperity. I never wanted to inhibit my good health. I never wanted to inhibit it, but we do when we're not in a line. When we're not aligned with what it is we say we want, and the way we become aligned with what we say we want is our thinking, is our consciousness, is our actions, all working together for the reaching of that goal. And once we continue to do it, continue to practice those 3 steps that we talked about. Pause. What am I thinking right now? How does that affect me getting to where I want to go? So I need to give the right response, and sometimes it might be walking away. Now it begins to feel natural, not because the stuff out here, all of a sudden the people that didn't like me. All of a sudden the way they treat me, they don't treat me that way anymore. No, that's not why it changes. It changes because we are, you are, I am no longer divided within ourselves. There is a congruency happening where my thinking, my actions, and my goals are all in alignment. And that within space is where transformation truly begins. Alignment is where your message stops being, oh, that's interesting. Loving God. Interesting. But now, how do I love God? I need to apply it. It stops becoming interesting and it starts becoming applied in our life. It starts to becoming applicable to our actions. Yes, now the lesson begins as we take the idea of applied alignment into a closing affirmation treatment. Why is it becoming easier for me to choose responses? Responses that reflect clarity instead of reaction. Why? Why is it becoming easier, natural for me to choose the responses that reflect clarity toward my goal, toward my stated desire, instead of resisting it? I say I want peace, but I'm a hellraiser. I say I want joy, but I bring clouds everywhere I go. I say I want prosperity, but I'm so irresponsible. Not only with my action, but with my words. We know right now that the needed reaction for me, for you, for us to reach our stated goals, our desires, that the needed reactions are growing in us right now. And if we but pause, that needed reaction to help us reach our goal will come forth. And it will be a natural process. As we allow that truth that is within us to bring forth the answers that we need for every situation. As we move away from ego-based reactions, which is so difficult, to that Christ consciousness reaction, to that divine reaction, to that peace reaction that comes from the consciousness that we choose to live from. In this moment, at this time, we accept the fact that there's a revelation going on in us. There is a resurrection going on in us, a resurrection to the wholeness that we've always carried with us and always have been. All scriptures tell us that we are whole and complete no matter the practice. And we right now in this moment embrace the wholeness and completeness of the spirit that's within us, and we wish, we desire, we allow that spirit to come forth and guide our responses to the activities out here. Mother, Father God, we say thank you for the opportunity, to move into spiritual consciousness alignment. And so it is. Thank you so much for being here this week. We appreciate you. You can catch a replay of this on YouTube. And until next week, from the spiritual community known as Unity of Chicago South, we say namaste. All is well.